Sports Officer. This role helps manage university and college sport and serves as a main point of contact for any sports-related queries. As well as organising varsity and roses, the Sports Officer is responsible for representing university and college sports, leading the York Sport Committee, and improving access to sports at York.
Hello, I'm Polly McGill and I'm sat here with Kim Blankson here, running for Sports Officer. Let's kick off the interview with, why did you decide to run for this role, Kim?
Well, that's a really good question, actually, because it took me a really long time to probably decide it, and it was because I wanted to make sure that I was properly passionate about it, and that's because I've taken part in sport for the entire time I've been at university, and it's been a really important part of why I've been able to even keep going with my degree, and I want to make sure that everyone gets to experience the same level of sport that I got to.
That's brilliant. I'm going to talk a bit about your manifesto here. So you mention a concern in the quality of first aid and physio in sports societies. In your manifesto, you decide to change this. How would you ensure that members of sports clubs could receive proper training in first aid to a sufficient level across the board?
I want to make sure that the first aid training that we're giving the committees especially is first aid that's certified, so they could even put it in their CVs for employability.
Yeah.
And also making sure that this is part of the mandatory training they do at the beginning of the year when they do the first handover. And also equip them with first aid kits to make sure that they're equipped, but they also have the right facilities to do so.
You also mention the importance of mental health as well as physical health in sports teams and sports societies. Open door run appointments you mentioned in your manifesto. What would this entail, and how do you think this could benefit the student body at the University of York?
I want to make sure that the specific mental health sessions that are being given to sports athletes are, especially for injury, something to do with sports psychology based, trying to help them get back into the game and having a talking based conversation of how they feel and how they felt throughout the whole process, because it's really important to make sure that they feel heard and that they feel like they feel comfortable of actually getting back to it, because sometimes when you're injured you feel a bit weary about what you're doing. And I want to make sure that with Open Door they're really aware of that different side of mental health as well.
And what made you decide that this would be a main priority for you?
Last year I spent a lot of my time injured. I had a tibial plateau fracture, which is actually quite rare, and it was kind of difficult to deal with it because I'm such an active person. And I just had to be sat on my couch for the whole day for at least 4 months, and then after that I thought I'd be okay, but then I couldn't really walk properly for a couple of months, and it's made me realise just how big of an issue this is, and that shouldn't be the case. It should be made aware regardless of how you've been in the situation before.
Yeah. A key concern of yours is the price and availability of sport to students at the University of York. Do you think the price of sports facilities is reasonable on campus, or how do you desire us to challenge this further?
I think based on how the facilities are at the moment, I say it's not completely balanced, because for some sports they don't even have the lines to play on. For other sports they don't have the actual proper court that is preferred for their sport. For example, the tennis bubble isn't really up to scratch either. I think more improvements need to be made so that the cost is matched with what we're actually wanting to receive, and that's really important, especially for improving athletes' potential.
That's brilliant. Lastly, what makes you stand out against all the other candidates running today? What makes you, in particular, the most eligible for this role?
I think it's a mixture of my experience and then my passion as well. Being VP of Sport for Goodrick for 2 years and then having that little bit of uni sport experience has a very unique angle of how things work. I'm really into the SU side, so I've made a lot of connections within that space as well, so that's been really useful. But I'm the kind of person that doesn't want to back down if something seems to be really difficult. If someone tells me no, I hate it. So I just want to make sure that everything that I want to achieve is done in some kind of way, or I've laid out the foundations to do that in the long term as well.
That's brilliant. It's been so lovely talking to you, Kim, and I hope everyone listening knows that they can make the right decision in hopefully electing you as potential candidate. Up next, we have Joe Brearley interviewing Sophia Gauntlet for Sports Officer. Thank you.